Cartoons from Hell and the Global Impact. A collaboration between the research and mind of Adam C. Edsall and ChatGPT-4 with the advanced data analysis feature enabled. Vocabulary and proposed correlation between them by ChatGPT-4 with advanced data analysis feature enabled. 1. Dominated strategies. Definition. In game theory, a strategy is dominated if there exists another strategy that always gives better outcomes for every possible action of the opponents. If strategy A is always worse than or equal to strategy B, regardless of what the opponent does, then A is dominated by B. Correlation. This concept is based on rational decision-making, where individuals choose the best strategy for themselves, given the strategies chosen by others. 2. False selves. Definition. This term comes from psychology and refers to an inauthentic persona an individual presents to the world, often to achieve social acceptance or hide their true feelings, desires, or motivations. It is a protective layer, often developed due to past traumas or societal pressures. Correlation. Just as individuals in game theory may adopt certain strategies to maximize their gains, people might adopt false selves as a strategy to gain social acceptance or protect themselves from emotional harm. 3. Stealing credit for other people's work. Definition. This refers to the unethical act of taking recognition for someone else's effort or ideas without their consent or acknowledgement. Correlation. Similar to adopting dominated strategies or presenting a false self, stealing credit can be seen as a strategy, though unethical, to gain personal benefit, be it promotions, recognition, or other forms of social or material gain. 4. Cartoons from Hell possessing people's bodies. Definition. This phrase seems to be a metaphorical or fictional concept, suggesting a negative or malevolent influence taking over someone's actions or thoughts. Correlation. Drawing a connection with the above terms, this could symbolize how people, under certain influences, like societal pressures, personal ambitions, or traumas, might act out of character, or against their moral compass, similar to adopting dominated strategies, presenting a false self, or stealing credit. Synthesis. The common thread weaving through these phrases is the idea of strategy and decision-making. Whether it's choosing a course of action in a game, presenting oneself in a certain way to the world, taking unearned credit, or being influenced by external forces, all these scenarios involve individuals making choices, consciously or subconsciously, based on perceived benefits, constraints, and influences. An in-depth analysis on the phenomenon it represents. Let's dive deeper into the phenomenon these terms collectively represent. The overarching theme connecting these phrases is the influence of external and internal pressures on decision-making and behavior. To better understand this, we'll explore the underlying factors that bind these terms together. 1. Individual strategy versus collective outcome. Dominated strategies reveal a dichotomy between individual choices and collective outcomes. Even if an individual chooses what seems best for them, it might not yield the best outcome when everyone else's choices are factored in. Stealing credit for other people's work is an individual strategy aimed at personal gain, but it often backfires, leading to distrust, reduced collaboration, and a toxic work environment. Definition. Dichotomy. A division or contrast between two things that are represented as being opposed or entirely different. 2. Authenticity versus societal expectation. False selves represent the internal conflict between being one's authentic self and conforming to societal expectations or norms. This can stem from a fear of rejection, judgment, or a desire for acceptance. Cartoons from Hell possessing people's bodies can metaphorically depict the struggle of individuals acting out of character due to external pressures or influences. Definition. Authenticity. The quality of being genuine or true to oneself. 3. Ethics and morality in decision-making. Adopting dominated strategies or stealing credit shows a lapse in ethical judgment, where short-term gains are prioritized over long-term consequences or moral integrity. Cartoons from Hell possessing people's bodies metaphorically indicates a divergence from one's moral compass, driven by malevolent influences. Definition. Ethics, the moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. 4. Psychological influences and defense mechanisms. False selves are psychological defense mechanisms used to protect one's vulnerabilities or to fit into societal molds. Stealing credit can also be a defense mechanism for individuals with deep-seated insecurities, where they feel the need to elevate their status or worth at the expense of others. Definition: defense mechanism, an unconscious psychological mechanism that reduces anxiety arising from unacceptable or potentially harmful stimuli. In-depth analysis. The collective phenomenon represented by these terms underscores the intricate balance between individual desires, societal expectations, and moral compass. It reflects the internal and external tensions individuals face in various situations, whether in games, social interactions, or professional settings. The choices made, be they strategic, protective, or unethical, are influenced by a myriad of factors, including personal experiences, societal norms, insecurities, and perceived benefits. Understanding this interplay can offer insights into human behavior and the often complex motivations behind our decisions. Relation to negative feedback loops and positive feedback loops in regards to the human network as a single body. To understand the relationship between the aforementioned phenomenon and feedback loops in the context of the human network as a single body, let's first define both types of feedback loops. 1. Positive feedback loop. This amplifies or reinforces the direction of a given change. In other words, if a system is moving in a particular direction, a positive feedback loop will push it further in that direction. Example: in human physiology, the clotting of blood is a positive feedback loop. When a blood vessel is injured, the vessel constricts and chemicals start forming a clot. This process accelerates as more chemicals are released. 2. Negative feedback loop. This counteracts or opposes the direction of a given change. When a system starts moving in one direction, a negative feedback loop will push it back toward its set point or balance. Example: human body temperature regulation. If the body becomes too hot, sweat is produced to cool it down, and if it becomes too cold, shivering occurs to produce heat. Connecting this to our previously discussed phenomenon. 1. Individual strategy versus collective outcome. If individuals continuously adopt dominated strategies or engage in stealing credit, it can create a negative feedback loop. As more individuals notice the negative repercussions of these behaviors, like reduced trust, they might avoid or counteract them, pushing the system back towards collaborative and ethical behavior. Alternatively, if these behaviors go unchecked and are rewarded, a positive feedback loop might ensue, with more individuals adopting such tactics, believing them to be beneficial. 2. Authenticity versus societal expectation. The pressure to conform can create a positive feedback loop. As more individuals display false selves due to societal pressures, others might perceive this behavior as the norm, leading them to also hide their true selves. However, if society starts valuing authenticity and individuals who are genuine receive positive reinforcement, this can establish a negative feedback loop, encouraging others to also be genuine and pushing back against the pressure to conform. 3. Ethics and morality in decision-making. If unethical behaviors like stealing credit are not addressed, they can propagate a positive feedback loop, where such actions become more rampant. On the contrary, if there's a strong culture of ethics and integrity, with individuals being held accountable for unethical behaviors, a negative feedback loop can be established, discouraging such actions. 4. Psychological influences and defense mechanisms. If defense mechanisms such as false selves are continually employed without introspection or therapy, they can reinforce a positive feedback loop, ingraining these behaviors further. Conversely, therapy, self-awareness, and supportive environments can introduce negative feedback loops that break these patterns and promote healthier coping mechanisms. In summary, the human network, when viewed as a single body, can exhibit both positive and negative feedback loops based on the behaviors and norms prevalent within it. The balance between these loops will influence the overall health, functionality, and direction of the network. Understanding these dynamics can be crucial for interventions, policymaking, and fostering a healthier collective environment. Relation to confusion from a neuroscience perspective. Certainly, from a neuroscience perspective, our behaviors, decisions, and expectations are deeply rooted in neural networks formed through experiences and learning. The phenomena of false selves and stealing credit can indeed create confusion in people's learned expectations. Let's explore how. 1. Learning and prediction. The brain is a predictive organ. Through experiences, it forms patterns and expectations about the world. This involves the strengthening of synaptic connections in neural networks. When someone consistently presents a false self or steals credit, they disrupt the expected patterns, causing confusion in those who interact with them. The brain struggles to predict their behavior, leading to cognitive dissonance or uncertainty. Definition: cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort experienced by a person who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. 2. Trust and the social brain. Trust is a fundamental aspect of social interactions, underpinned by specific brain regions like the oxytocin system and the anterior cingulate cortex. Displaying inauthenticity, false selves, or deceit, stealing credit, erodes trust. When trust is broken, the brain has to recalibrate its expectations, leading to increased vigilance and skepticism in future interactions. 3. Reward systems. The brain's reward system, involving areas like the ventral striatum and the dopamine system, plays a key role in reinforcement learning. When someone benefits from stealing credit, it can create a mismatch in others' brains between effort and reward. Observers may become confused about what behaviors are genuinely valued and rewarded in their environment. Over time, if deceptive behaviors are consistently rewarded, it could alter the way individuals perceive the value of honesty and hard work, potentially leading to maladaptive learning. 4. Mirror neurons and modeling. Mirror neurons fire both when an individual performs an action and when they observe someone else performing that action. They play a role in understanding intentions, empathy, and learning through imitation. When individuals consistently witness false selves and credit stealing, their mirror neuron system might become engaged, leading them to unintentionally model or internalize these behaviors, creating confusion about social norms and acceptable behaviors. 5. Stress and cognitive load. Continually trying to discern the authenticity of interactions or being wary of credit theft can increase cognitive load and stress. Over time, chronic stress affects the brain's structure and function, especially in areas like the hippocampus, involved in memory, and the prefrontal cortex, involved in decision-making. This stress can further complicate the process of forming clear expectations and making sound judgments. In conclusion, from a neuroscience perspective, the phenomena of false selves and stealing credit can indeed disrupt the brain's learned expectations, trust mechanisms, reward systems, and modeling behaviors, leading to confusion, increased cognitive load, and potential maladaptive learning, hypothetically leading to a singularity of destructive behavior. The concepts of false selves and stealing credit can indeed propagate through the human network, influencing behaviors on an individual-by-individual basis. However, whether it would lead to a singularity of destructive behavior is a more complex issue, as it involves various socio-psychological factors. Let's analyze this step by step. 1. Behavioral contagion. Behavioral contagion refers to the propensity for certain behaviors to spread through a group or population, either through direct imitation or due to the changed circumstances created by the behavior. If behaviors such as presenting false selves or stealing credit are not only tolerated but rewarded in some way, for example, social approval, professional advancement, they can become more prevalent as individuals observe and then adopt these behaviors to gain similar rewards. 2. Normalization of destructive behaviors. As these behaviors become more widespread, there's a risk of them being normalized. When an action is perceived as normal or common, individuals might be less likely to critically assess its ethical or long-term implications. This normalization can further accelerate the spread of such behaviors as the barriers to engaging in them decrease. 3. Erosion of trust and social cohesion. As previously discussed, inauthenticity and deceit erode trust. If these behaviors become pervasive, they can undermine the foundation of trust that social and professional relationships are built upon. This erosion can lead to reduced collaboration, increased skepticism, and a general atmosphere of distrust. 4. Feedback loops. Positive feedback loops can amplify and spread these behaviors. For instance, if one individual sees another benefiting from deceit without facing consequences, they might be more inclined to adopt similar behaviors. Without interventions or negative feedback loops, like sanctions or societal disapproval, to counteract this trend, the spread of such behaviors could continue unchecked. 5. Limiting factors and resilience. However, it's essential to note that not all individuals will adopt or condone such behaviors, even if they are prevalent. Many people have strong personal values, ethical frameworks, or have been raised in environments that prioritize authenticity and integrity. Additionally, societies have inherent resilience and self-correcting mechanisms. If the consequences of widespread inauthenticity and deceit become too damaging, there might be collective efforts to counteract these trends, such as cultural shifts, educational initiatives, or institutional reforms. In conclusion, while the propagation of behaviors like false selves and stealing credit can influence the human network and potentially lead to widespread destructive behavior, it's unlikely to result in a total singularity of destructive behavior. There are inherent checks and balances in human societies, including individual values, societal resilience, and self-correcting mechanisms that can counteract negative trends. However, unchecked, these behaviors can certainly lead to significant disruptions in trust, collaboration, and social cohesion. Outcome of a singularity of destructive behavior succeeded globally: If a singularity of destructive behavior, characterized by widespread inauthenticity, false selves, and deceit, stealing credit, succeeded on a global scale, it would have profound implications for individuals, societies, and the global community at large. Here's an exploration of potential consequences. 1. Erosion of trust. At the foundation of functional societies is trust. If deceit and inauthenticity became the norm, trust would erode, making interpersonal relationships and community bonds fragile. 2. Economic implications. Businesses and economies rely on trust and collaboration. Rampant deceit could hinder business partnerships, increase the cost of doing business due to increased need for oversight and verification, and reduce overall economic efficiency. 3. Mental health crisis. Presenting a false self continuously can lead to identity crises, anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. A global prevalence would likely lead to widespread psychological distress. The constant vigilance required in a deceitful environment could also increase stress and its associated health repercussions. 4. Social isolation. As trust erodes, individuals might isolate themselves to avoid being deceived or hurt, leading to fragmented communities and increased loneliness. 5. Stagnation of innovation and progress. Collaboration is crucial for innovation. In an environment where people are wary of sharing ideas for fear of having their credit stolen, there might be a decline in collective innovation and progress. 6. Cultural implications. Cultures might undergo shifts, with values like honesty, integrity, and authenticity being overshadowed by cunning, competitiveness, and self-preservation. 7. Governance and political implications. Politics, already an arena where trust is sometimes fragile, could become even more polarized. Decision-making could be hindered, and governance structures might become unstable. 8. Ethical deterioration. A global acceptance of deceit as the norm would lead to an ethical decline, where the lines between right and wrong become blurred. This could have cascading effects on various aspects of society, from legal systems to everyday interactions. 9. Potential for conflict. Misunderstandings, misrepresentations, and deceit can be sources of conflict, both at interpersonal levels and between communities or nations. A global prevalence of such behavior could lead to increased conflicts. 10. Self-correction and resilience. However, it's essential to note that societies have inherent self-correcting mechanisms. A global crisis of this magnitude might lead to collective efforts to counteract these trends, much like societal responses to other global challenges. In conclusion, a global singularity of destructive behavior would profoundly impact the fabric of societies, economies, politics, and individual well-being. While it's a grim scenario, the inherent resilience and adaptability of human societies might provide avenues for recovery and course correction.